Now, going to question 18, we always start with the prompt. And here the prompt is telling us that this is a grammar question. So we're reading with an eye toward grammar. And let's start reading. In assessing the films of this Japanese director, many critics have focused on his use of Western literary sources, but have missed his equally deep engagement with certain Japanese artistic traditions. So there's definitely a contrast there. The critics have focused on one thing, but they have missed his equally deep engagement with something else. So we definitely want a contrast. We definitely want the word but in there. And we can get rid of the two that just kind of ignore the contrast. So that brings us down to A and C. Now, one of the main differences with C is it starts with there are. And is it a big deal to start that way or not? And I would say the answer is yes. And that's because of something we jokingly refer to as the LeBron James rule. So, a little background before we talk about this rule. A clause is something that has a subject and a verb. For instance, if we said, John jumped. Jumped is the verb, and John is the one who did the verb, the subject. A modifier, on the other hand, is something that's missing the subject, the verb, or both. Now, if a sentence starts with a modifier that's missing its subject, then the subject must lead the second part of the sentence. So here's an example of that. After leading Miami to 2 championships, that's a modifier missing the subject because we feel that someone's being spoken about, but we don't know exactly who because it's not named yet. After leading Miami to 2 championships, LeBron moved back to Cleveland. So because there's some suspense in the green part, we're talking about someone without naming the person. The name of the person needs to start the second part of the sentence. And so that would be the problem with C here, because we're hearing in assessing the films of this Japanese director. Who is assessing the films of the Japanese director? Many critics. So it's a lot stronger in this situation to pick A than to pick C, which would say there are many critics. It just weakens the whole idea that we should be naming who we're talking about in the beginning of the second part of the sentence. So the answer here is A.